Hello, everyone. I am Ninja,
I'm supposed to go first. I'm Bree.
and I'm Ninja, and this is we'll call this a special episode of Bree Ninja Network. Um, Essentially, we, as a black platform, definitely need to express how we feel about the current state of the world. The last time we were, that we covered on the channel, it was mostly COVID stuff. I think the last thing we talked about is how things were starting to recover a little bit, and for the most part, now things are open up.
Everyone's back to
so
normal.
Everything's back to
like
to
nothing
normal
happened
for the
except
most
work.
part.
Everyone's pretty much still working from home.
But unfortunately, this remorse that we're feeling during all this newfound freedom actually occurs from an event that actually happened during the peak of COVID, like while people were still being curfews were still enacted, people were still being in their home, and it resulted in the death of a black man via police brutality, via knee to the neck in the streets.
I would go back even further than that. It was one that kind of fell through the cracks, and people had to advocate to get it nationwide. But the Ahmaud Arbery one from a few months ago was
Correct.
really
That one.
what started it.
That one was you're right. Once again, Bree's right. It was like in February. So it was right after most of the states started initiating curfews and making sure everyone stayed home. So that even occurring was kind of weird because it's like, why wasn't the focus on your own health? I would ask the question. If all this COVID stuff's going on, why would your hatred come out so much that you have to pursue someone via car who's just running through the neighborhood? It's a little crazy.
So these two national stories came up, and it sparked outrage in the country and really made us all kind of go back and reflect on ourselves and reflect on our experiences and what we all can be doing together to make the future brighter and give more hope.
Says on top of everyone being at home, so like Bree
And
said,
staying
a lot of reflection time.
Yeah.
And like I say, it just really makes you question, like, with all this going on, like I said, with the COVID stuff and thousands of people supposedly dying from this virus that affects all of us the same, no matter what skin tone that we have, that this, like I said, this hatred is still very present in our culture and very, like I said, almost still in the forefront when, like I said, there's supposed to be other important things going on, supposedly. But yeah, and maybe we want to, I guess, exercise our, like I said, our First Amendment right to
Freedom
speech,
of speech,
and kind of follow suit. I mean, that there's plenty of interesting companies that have never spoken up before at this point, giving their statements, CEOs talking to us directly in our emails, things that are just kind of, even different countries are lending their voice that have never lent before, and we don't know if it's one of those, like I said, the trendy moments, or if it's something that's going to promote actual change. But we want to voice our opinions on it, especially in the realms of police brutality and
systematic racism,
and our personal experience, because unfortunately we have experience with it. So
yeah, so I'll start. I have been doing a lot of reflection kind of on my feelings, and I've actually kind of been disappointed in myself looking back because I haven't always been an advocate. I've always kind of been one of the silent ones that just never spoke of it. It was just something that I felt like, this is our country, this is our life, and we just had to deal with it. I guess you can say I always turned a blind eye. And I think another reason why I was so quiet about it was because of my upbringing and where I come from. And I never wanted it to come off as if I'm not grateful for where I come from. I grew up in a very, very small town where everyone knew each other, and it's like one big family where we all protect and love each other. But with family comes love, but there also comes some turmoil. Yeah, and there are a lot of dark things about where I grew up that really just doesn't come to light, or it's just not talked about. because we are the minority, and it is something that I feel like a lot of us just became accustomed to, and it was just, that's just the way it is. But I know kind of growing up and getting out of the town and going to the city that that's not the experience for a lot of people, and that it was my job to speak up. Again, I come from a very small town, one school system. I'm with the same people from elementary school to senior year, and I knew very well that where I came from before, I actually started out my first 8 years in life in Clayton County, Atlanta, Georgia, before I moved to the small town. And I have no regrets, because I know that if I would have stayed in Clayton County, stayed in Atlanta all my life, that my life would be completely different. My upbringing would have been completely different than what I had. I had freedom to the point where my parents didn't mind me leaving the house, walking all the way across town and go get ice cream. Me and my friends kind of got to do whatever we wanted because we were in this safe bubble. Blake says I come from a bubble because it really is that much of a small town where everyone is just so carefree.
Right outside of another small town. I guess when the biggest town is Athens, that's like, that should let you know how small it is.
We're like smaller than Athens, yeah, very small. A lot of people think I'm from South Georgia when that's not the case. But
East.
Yeah. But that town did teach me a lot about racism, honestly. And I hate to say it because I know there are a lot of good people there, with good hearts and good intentions, and I still love and care about them to this day. But we grew up differently. Even though we were all from the same place, we came from different households, we came from different backgrounds, and we kind of just chopped it up to, you know what, we're different, we think differently, our beliefs are different. And that really was an excuse when what they believed and what they thought was different was actually discrimination against us as a race, as a culture. I can just name 3 quick examples before moving on. The first time I opened my eyes to racism and that, you know, we're not just kids on a playground playing with each other anymore, was around middle school, when, you know, we kind of get to that stage where you start liking the other gender and you start dating, and you would have thought it was a crime to date someone of the opposite race than you. Like,
Still in today, because at one point, remember, it was a crime.
You would thought it still was a crime dating someone of the opposite color of you. Like, my mind would be blown sometimes, the outrage that it would cause when someone black and someone white wanted to date each other in that town, and everything that they had to go through. And I'm just like, I don't get what the problem is. And, you know, some people who say, I'm not a racist, I just don't think it's right. You know, it's just not how it's supposed to be. Well, thinking back on it, it is a form of racism, because you're discriminating against that person, saying they can't date because they're not the same color, they don't come from the same culture.
It's just, who makes up those rules? Like, who determines why it's not right?
Yeah.
We didn't determine that.
Yeah.
Someone else
if
in power
anything,
determined that
we try to protect
right.
ourselves of saying we don't want our kids to get hurt because we know the harm that it could cause and what other people feel and how they interpret it. So that was really the first time that my eyes opened to, wow, racism is not something that we just like read about in the history books. Like, this is something very real to this day. So that was around middle school. Fast forward to 2008, I'm a sophomore in high school, and someone by the name of Barack Obama is running for president. And I didn't realize how bold, honestly, my parents were. We lived in an all-white neighborhood. Well, there's a black family that lives there now, but for a long time, we were the only black family in this one neighborhood. And my parents put out a Barack Obama yard sign in our front yard, making it clear who they were voting for in November. And we went away for the weekend, and coming back, I immediately noticed coming around the corner, our blue sign turned white, had a red X going through the middle of it saying "No Obama" with eggshells up under it. As you drive up, you see the eggshells in the yard. I'm the first one to get out of the car. I remember going up the steps, and there's a dead bird on the front porch, and I look up and there's egg yolk all over my front door, all over the window of my bedroom. My dad goes to the backyard. There's eggshells and egg yolk on both parts of our patio. We had an up and down patio, and I didn't know why, but my parents were furious that our house was egged just because of a blue sign they put out in their yard expressing their freedom of speech. And They called the police. You know, we were on the front of the newspaper, but at the end of the day, like, nothing was
y'all
done.
were like one of two black families in that neighborhood.
Yeah. We were the minority, but you still had the right to express yourself, and we were completely disrespected in our own home, in our own neighborhood. And it just is what it is. You know, me and my sister went to school talking about it with our friends and our classmates, and I know who did it. We know who did it. But the fact that nothing was done of it really pissed me off. But again, it was something in my mind that's just the way, you know, that's just how life is. That's just how some people are. And that's just something that we as black people had to deal with. We had to chalk it up and move on.
That's the privilege that we're not allowed.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I lived my life through high school. I'm not even going to talk about my first job, but I remember my senior year, right before I was getting ready to leave, you know, I said, you know what, I want to have fun. I want to have fun this year. I didn't really go out and party that much until my senior year, and so I kind of partied with all the white people and had the time of my life. I still love all of them to this day, and I was a month out from graduation, getting ready to go to UGA. And I got set back in reality real quick of who I am and where I belong, when I was always that token girl one night at a party. And I kind of said to myself, you know what, I want to go bring a friend with me. So I left, the only black girl, I left the party, went to go pick up a black guy friend, brought him back to the party with me, and as soon as he walked away from me, I get surrounded by a group of white guys, and they say, "Did you bring the black boy here?" And I'm like, excuse me? Like, y'all do know I'm black, right? So, like, that taught me that even though y'all accept me, You're still
gonna look at it the same as the rest of us.
And I didn't do anything about it in that moment. I just kind of took it in like, I need to know my place. I need to know where I belong, whether I am accepted or not. Don't get confused of where my allegiance stands and whose team I'm on. And again, I didn't do anything about it. I was just kind of like, I got one more month left in this town, had the time of my life. I'm taking these experiences. I'm moving on. I went to UGA, and that is kind of the mindset that I went into, that it's just something I had to deal with as a black woman. And I'm getting ready to go to this majority white university 30 minutes up from my hometown, where people in Athens are pretty much the same way.
100%.
So I wasn't really phased. By the time I left and went to college, I became numb to racism. I knew it was real. I knew it was something that we all had to deal with, and I just became numb to it. It didn't affect me. So by the time I went to college and I meet my college friends who came from different backgrounds than me, some did come from small towns, but some came from Atlanta, some came from majority black schools. So what they saw at UGA and what they experienced, that was their first time seeing racism in real life and not on TV or not in the history books. And so they were confused when I'm not as angry as them, when I'm not as passionate and want to go protest through Tate with them, when we go downtown to a bar and they stiffen up when they walk into a bar and there's a Confederate flag hanging over the bar, and I'm just like, can I order a drink? Because I was used to it. There was Confederate flags all up through the parking lot of my high school, so like, what's the problem, you know? I kind of just turned a blind eye, and it didn't affect me, and my friends would really get mad at me, and I didn't understand why. I would just chalk it up as we were raised differently. That's just what I'm used to. But now, seeing everything that's going on in America and seeing that, you know, the Ahmaud Arbery's, the Trayvon Martins, I can't make excuses anymore. I used to make excuses when these videos first came out and we were fighting back with police, and I'm like, we know our role. We know as a black person we have to stand still and just take it and fight later, but I want you to live another day to fight. But that's not fair that that's how we have to believe. It's not right. And now that I'm raising a black boy, now that I have a son, I have to have a voice. I can't turn a blind eye anymore, and I have to be a part of the change. I can't just accept it and tell my son that's just the way life is, because that's not fair. And I want a better future for him than what we all have had to experience for
400 years.
400 years.
Because there's been very little progress.
Yeah. So that was my mindset going off to college and meeting you.
Lord, and that's where I come in. Like I said, I guess I'm gonna focus more on the, like I said, the more police brutality side of things because, like Brianna said, upbringing does kind of come into play. And I grew up, fortunately, I tell people all the time in Cobb County where I kind of saw, I didn't really see things so much black or white per se because Cobb County just has a diverse amount of people and cultures because the county is just so big and there's just so many people there. And even in the school system, like I mean, when you get to the high school level, you can see how it's kind of systematically set up, unfortunately, to be, we know that the Kennesaw Mountain and the North Cobb are the white schools, and that the South Cobbs and the Campbells are the black schools, and like the Sprayberries are more. We know these, that they are set up that way. But in middle school, for the most part, I can say that I felt like I was in a very diverse background where I saw just as many people who looked just like me. I saw, just as many white people, just as many Hispanic classmates, just as many Asian classmates. And I got to see a large array. I want to say up until about high school, where it's very clear how politics draw the lines for the high school districting. I know it's a more political thing. Like I said, that's where I kind of grew up more in like I said, my background as far as diversity. Because I was in more advanced class and stuff, so I got to see my white counterparts a little bit more often.
But for the most part, you were in a black school.
Yes, it was really mixed. I mean, I ended up going to South Cobb. South Cobb was 100%, or not 100%, but it was a majority black school. I only went for the magnet program, and in the magnet program, that is where the only white kids at the entire school went, and it was strictly for the magnet program. That's just to let you know the background. So I kind of saw a lot, but in the end, I went to high school around my people, and the experiences for us were genuinely the same. Like I said, we didn't really have too much like when we played the white team per se, like Kennesaw or North Cobb, it wasn't really much racial tension because they still went to school with they had tons of black kids on their team just as much. It was still a very diverse place. The one thing that we could come together on, unfortunately though, was Cobb County police in the way that they dealt with minorities. Unfortunately, the police brutality rates in Cobb County are something that people make fun of in Georgia to this day. I even remember when Bree was working for the news for CBS, she was talking about how much my county was coming up in the news because it's like it wasn't just things going. It's mostly doing with police and how they respond to things. I have friends that have lost friends' lives to police brutality in Cobb County, and it's interesting, I guess, growing up around it, but it's even more interesting when you unfortunately become a part of it. And it's like, in the cases for me, it was always minding my own business and always doing what my parents taught me to do. I've never been one to follow trouble. I've always been one to kind of keep my head on a swivel and make sure that I'm aware of my surroundings, and to essentially know that they, in a sense, they are out to get you. They are trying to find ways to put you in the system. And with that in mind, like I said, I always try to move very careful. So the times that I was essentially confronted with unnecessary police action, it really was kind of like an eye-opening moment for me, like something you see on TV, because it's kind of like exactly what they tell you in the books. For example, in Cobb County was one of my first experiences. Like, this was before I went to college. It was like right before, or it was like in that transition, the summer right before I went to UGA, where I kind of got the brunt of all of it. I'm driving home from a party in Atlanta, going down Windy Hill. It's unfortunate that both my situation in Cobb County are down this road. Windy Hill is just one of those places where it's like a speed trap
zone.
It's a trap zone, and they're trying to get people no matter what. And if you're black, they're definitely trying to get you. Unless it's like, I was coming from a party. Like I said, I was 18. I didn't start drinking until I was 21. So it's like I didn't have any intentions. I was perfectly sober, and sure enough, a cop sees me pulling off the highway, coming on the Windy Hill, and pulls me over. He was trailing me for a very long time, but he didn't pull me over until, I want to say, he radioed probably like 7 more cops, because it started with just him, and he pulled me over, claiming that I swerved. He was trailing me, and I swerved the line, or blah blah blah. And then as he's talking to me, literally 3 other squad cars come up, and this goes from a situation where it's 1 black man and 2 cops to it's a 1 black man and 8 cops. And I mean this is how Cobb County kind of does their things. In general, it's kind of like total overkill, but it leads to these very tense situations. And for me, it went from it really wasn't a regular situation, because like I said, I wasn't drinking, I didn't cross any lines, but it went from a regular traffic stop to a very tense situation. Like, oh my gosh, this is one of those moments that everyone's talking about, and sure enough, I'm talking to the cop, I'm telling him I didn't swerve the line, and he forces me to do the breathalyzer test because whatever. And it's sure enough, when I pass, I guess the issue I've discussed with Bree is the fact that when they make these mistakes, they never apologize. This cop, he was just doing his job. It looked like I swerved. The breathalyzer came up 000, and
surprised.
He's like you say, he's surprised, and then he just goes about his day. No apology, nothing like that. And
have a good day.
Like I said, in that moment, I've skated through. I didn't think about it then. I'm not outraged. I called my mom to let her know what's going on. To let her know, like, I'm so happy that I don't drink, because what if I had? You know what I mean? They were just looking for an excuse to get me, like I said, caught up in something. Similar situation happened on Windy Hill. Very same type of situation. Once again, I wasn't drinking. Had to do another breathalyzer. And when it becomes a reoccurring thing like that, that's when my brain starts to wrap around that, hey, maybe they are targeting me. Okay? So we fast forward to going to Athens. Like Brianna said, Athens is literally, honestly, a bigger portion of where our town. It's in little quantities, because a majority of the athletes at UGA are African Americans, so they gotta respect us to some point. But when I get into like some of the things me and Bree have to talk about as far as like legislation in the town, like the bar legislation and stuff, they don't respect us that much. So UGA was a place of learning for me. I went there for school, like Bree said. It was a PWI. I kind of went there to trying to get a grasp of real world situations, and I kind of got exactly what I asked for. Being the fact that in high school, it pretty much was an all black school, with the exception for my fellow magnet classmates. And I guess jumping into an environment that's a complete opposite, it really like snapped me forward into, this is where you are in this. College is supposed to be like a simulation of life or the world, and that's what they're supposed to do. And boy, like it can't. When you go to a school like UGA as a black person, it really is, because you see things that just happen that just never seen before. And the cases I want to stick to police brutality, and the cases I want to bring up were 2 cases at UGA where my UGA police, Athens police, I don't know, they're kind of merged, actually stopped me. They're separate, but the way they think is merged. Okay. Because it's like, in these situations, I was pedestrian, actually, walking on my campus as a black man. And I was actually, I guess, like I said, when you're confronted with a squad car and you're on foot, it's like literally one of the scariest things you could ever, because you can get hit by the cop car. You don't know if he's coming out guns blazing. You don't know what's going on. He's just coming up, skirting the car, and you're on foot. And in my cases, I'm minding my own business, so I really don't know what's going on. Okay? I'm gonna keep my story short, like Bree said. One situation, me and my roommate and one of my best friends are going to a party, and we have on party attire, and there's no way that we look like we're stealing, but the cops sure enough pulled up in front of us, and they accuse us of being some of the young black youth in the neighborhood of Athens that are stealing from houses or in apartments nearby. And it's like, we kind of had, like I said, that was like my first moment, because where I kind of had a I wouldn't say aha moment. It was like I really was just taken back from myself, because like, once again, we're pedestrians. We're on foot. We're in party attire. We don't look like we're stealing things. We're literally heading to my best friend's car to go to a party, and we're pulled over by the cops. And it's like, the situation didn't really escalate too much, but it's like it could have, because they needed to verify that we were students by asking us for our IDs. Our student IDs, our UGA IDs. And all of us happen to have it on ourselves, right? But one of my roommate brought to attention the fact that he doesn't always carry his ID on him all the time because he was visually upset.
Yeah.
And we asked him why, and it's because he told us, I don't carry my student ID with me all the time. So what would have happened if I didn't have it on me? And that's the question that unfortunately us as black people in America have to ask all the time, where we exercise the difference between us and the white privileged counterparts that we have, where y'all would never be in situations where you would have to show your student ID to the UGA cop for just walking on campus. That's only reserved for us, unfortunately. And like I said, I didn't at that time. I want to say it wasn't the biggest deal because, like I said, besides the obvious racial profiling, and we asked them follow-up questions. They can't tell us anything besides the fact that
they saw black
young black youth. Yeah, you guys fit the profile of the thieves in the neighborhood. And it, like I said, what makes it so deep to me is we remember it was a white cop that was leading the conversation, but there was a black cop that was with him that day, and he didn't look like he was trying to defend us in any manner. So that was an eye-opening moment. The second moment was, these are all of my freshman year, by the way, was going into Thanksgiving break. Essentially, we're all leaving to go home from campus to go home for break, and as we're leaving, I wanted to see a friend off at the gas station literally right up the street from our dorms, from the freshman dorms. And in process, I have let you guys know, I have on the black man uniform. I have on hoodie, shorts. It's cold. It's November. Okay, I have on a hoodie. And I wore shorts. That was like the thing that I wore around campus all the time. People literally would tell you that was like my uniform. I have on my hoodie. I have on my shorts, and I'm going to see a friend off at the gas station as her and her family are filling up to go home. Sure enough, and it's crazy because my mother actually was there and she witnessed this, and it's like it's even crazier when you hear it from different perspectives. But essentially, I go to see this friend off, and like I said, it's literally the walking distance from the dorm. I run up the street, go to a crosswalk, wait for the crosswalk to turn to the walking signal, walk across, wait for the next crosswalk to turn. Essentially, I crossed the street twice and waited, no jaywalking, because I lay low. That's what I do. No jaywalking, but in the process, my mom actually sees a cop car trailing me as I'm running up the hill. And then when I get to my friend at the gas station is when he confronts me, whips this car in front of me. What are you doing, sir? What's that in your pocket? Are you a student here? I'm like, excuse me, sir. I was actually had prior plans. I'm here to meet someone. May I help you? No. Can I see what's in your pocket? What's in your hoodie, sir? I'll never forget him asking me, and my response is literally like, I had to give him the most blunt response because I was so thrown off guard. I'm like, what's in your pocket? My phone. Is it your phone? Yes, sir. It is my phone. You sure? Because we've been hearing people stealing out of dorms as people are getting out of campus for the break. I'm like, what? Now, in hindsight, I gave him some credit because I was coming from a dorm. But no, I can't give him, and this is something I thought about recently, because for the longest, I'm just like, my mom was upset. She saw him trail me. She wanted me to get his badge number and to go down to the precinct and just tear up their whole thing. But I was just like, yo, I handled the situation. He looked like a dummy.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. But when, like I said, in hindsight, I feel like sometimes I should have escalated and maybe got that man off the streets, because who knows what was the next black student or non-black. The thing about Athens is there's a lot of black people, impoverished, unfortunately, in the community around it, and they can be being profiled just as much as we are. And
students. And
it's just like, if we don't get cops like him out of there, it's just going that's moving on to someone else. And that on top of those are the two, like I said, police brutality moments in Athens. I really wanted to talk about some of the systematic things that are installed at the UGA that just involve racial hate between our own community. Like I said, the town in the enforcement of bar culture, that they have specific rules that outline black culture and ban it from the bars.
There's literally signs outside the bars. Again, we're not trying to slander anyone.
It's not a slander.
Anything.
This is
like it's facts. It's
factual.
just facts.
It was in the news.
Literally, there are signs outside of the bars. We are finally 21, able to show a real ID, unlike half the people downtown Athens, to get into a bar, and there are signs saying no dreadheads, no hoop earrings, no boots or whatever, no Nikes, boots, no high top Jordans,
no cuff shoes,
no crop tops. Literally all the signs that you would think a black person wears. It's like, I would prefer you just put a sign
on paper.
I literally would rather just put a sign out saying no Negroes, just like back in the day. Like, just be blunt about it. What you want.
I almost forget that I've been kept out. Is light skin
I've had to bar hop with him so many times because he gets kicked out, or he doesn't get kicked out.
I've been kept out.
Entered. Yeah, like
I've been kept out of a bar because of my earring. I got kept out of a bar supposedly for my earring. I got kept out of a bar because my pants literally weren't cupping my boots the right way. Like, essentially, they were saying my pants looked like they were sagging because they weren't cuffed up on my, like, and again, I've seen some crazy stuff in Athens that made me realize, man,
all the guys would be so upset, and someone like me who's just used to it, I would just be like, y'all, let's just go somewhere else.
I made a stand at one of the places.
Let's just go somewhere else.
I made a stand and made a scene. It want the boot thing, the earring. You can just take that out and whatever, but the boot, I can't take my pants off, and I did make a stand with that, and it didn't.
Even when you took the earring off, though, they still were like, "No."
Yeah, I'm saying in general. I know like there's some clubs in Atlanta that don't let you wear earrings.
There's some where they'll be like, "Oh, we're at capacity," but
you're trying to tell me that I sag my pants when I don't sag my pants. That is crazy. That's essentially what we're trying to say. Those will look like baggy pants. I'm like, they're not.
Yeah.
In like I said, it's stuff like that in Athens that's just like, it's sad, and but like it's. To me, like I said, the fact that it happened in Cobb County, Athens, and then I have one more story to tell you guys, essentially, what happened to us when we were moving into our apartment in Roswell Village, or Roswell. This, like I said, this lets me know that this is not just like a city problem, as I put in a post before. This is a whole statewide, this is country, this is a whole global issue, okay? We're in Roswell, like I said, another city. And
just graduated college, moving into our first apartment.
Engaged.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're looking forward to our new life together, and sure enough, it's just a slap in the face right when we're moving in. Hey guys, you're black. When
someone called the police on us.
Yeah.
On him.
Well, yeah, on me. Yeah. Once again, had the black man uniform on. We moved in February, y'all. Like I said, it's when it's appropriate to wear a hoodie. And like I said, this to emphasize to people who don't understand white privilege. You're supposed to wear a hoodie in February when it's cold outside.
You're moving stuff.
It was raining. It was all these things where it was appropriate to wear a hoodie. But anyways, I had the black man uniform on, and sure enough, in the midst of moving, a cop car just pulls on up, and I literally am ignoring this man. I'm ignoring this man because I'm like, there's no way. Me and Bree are clearly there's a U-Haul. We have a big U-Haul. Our cars. We're moving stuff into the apartment. There's no way. But sure enough, excuse me, sir. Hey, sir, may I speak to you, sir? Yeah, sure. What's up, man? We got a call of, disturbance of, hooded black crick figure. I don't know what they told him. But they were looking for me, okay? The man who's clearly moving into his new apartment, okay? And we're in a gated community. That's when I'm like, there was no way like someone from the street saw me. It was someone in our neighborhood, which is just like, ugh. And they decided to use the cops on me. And, it's crazy that it took, 4 years later from that moment to finally have a law starting to come into play where false accusations are a bad thing now. Yeah, the cops, they came.
I like what the cop said, though.
They addressed me. He was a black cop, he was a black cop. I think that's the only reason why he said that.
He was like, welcome to the neighborhood.
Welcome to Roswell. That's what he said. He said, hey, I'm sorry, man. Welcome to Roswell. He actually apologized because as a black cop, I'm sure he knows what we go through, It's even though he's a black cop in a majority white city. Yeah. That's how it goes. And it's like the fact that we can't call, like I said, none of these cops all these cops are wrong in this situation. Only one apologized because he was black. The rest of them, I guess what I get upset about when I watch these videos is the fact that I'm so cool about it, the fact that I was so cool about it, and that my black brothers and sisters that weren't so cool about it are now dead. And that is the reality. It's like, what happens the other day when I decide I'm not so cool with the status quo of being racially profiled, and I'm like I said, I'm just not cool with that. I finally snap off an officer like, yo, this isn't right, and then he decides that he's threatened for his life, and that's the end of my story. That's the part that's starting to bother me as time is going on, because I'm not seeing the change that should be happening. I mean,
and I think that's what like scares me, the fact that, you know, we're new parents, and like we see a lot of our peers that are new parents as well, but there's just a huge difference. Like, not only do we have to learn how to literally raise a human being, a child at that, like the rest of us,
special rules,
but there's also the thing of, okay, we have to learn how to raise a child just like every other parent out there, but we also have to learn how to raise a black boy, a black male in America on top of that. And there are certain rules that he has to follow, and certain ways of carrying himself that no one else has to go through this, that we have to go through. And it's a lot of pressure, and it can be mentally draining and scary as hell. And I think that's where like my fear stems from, is like, if he does one bad thing, if he messes up, you know, gives someone some type of false assumption, that boom, it's like over. Everything could be taken from you. And that's scary for us to have to go through, and no one understands it unless you're in those shoes. And I just need people to just be compassionate at this point. Like,
yeah, I know the whole all lives matter thing is showing lack of compassion on all levels, because all lives don't have to go through this system that we're talking about. Only black lives do. Only we have the luxury of having to turn every traffic stop into a possible death sentence. So it's like, take that privilege and put it somewhere else. We're talking about the things that affect us and only us, unfortunately.
And I guess the thing that's like so frustrating, that's also frustrating, is like, I'm not a political person. I hate politics. I can't stand politics. I don't trust politics. And so like, I've never judged people off of their political beliefs. We're all allowed to believe what we want. But like, the argument of trying to throw politics into this, like, to me, that's just so minimal. Like, it's not red or blue. It's human life. It's life or death.
Or how about this, Bree? If they're going to throw politics into this, why don't they show us actual tangible legislation? Why is there not some actual law? You know, like I said, there's a lot of states that have actually put in, like I said, we've seen, like I said, the no chokehold thing. There are some states that are putting stuff, but where is the federal law? Where are the Congress and the Senate coming together with our ridiculous president and coming up with legislation that reflects how much TV effort they're putting? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know that the politicians wore the African scarves.
I saw that.
Like, what is that? That is
that.
Unless there's legislation being put out tomorrow by the Congress, I don't understand. Like,
I didn't even wear that for my graduation.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Actions got to match the words. Yeah. That's where I get my cutoff. That's what I'm saying. Like, if they want to be that involved. Show us the actual legislation that shows that hate crimes and police brutality and police unions are going to be corrected. That's all.
I have hope for our future.
I
pray.
I've tweeted this. I think
our
generation has made a lot of crazy moves.
I'm really proud of our generation. I'm really proud of us coming together as, I'm not saying everyone's perfect, because there's some people in our generation that, again, what I went through growing up when I was in school. But I think there is room for change, and I think a lot of our generation has proven that they do care about human lives, and that it's bigger than who's in the White House or who's in Congress. It's all about who's living. It's all about unity and peace and love, and like I said, compassion. Just compassion.
I suppose. I will know.
Compassion for one another.
Note that what makes our generation definitely special is that we are just an exposed culture. And fortunately, this exposure is very important right now. Like, we are the culture that records everything, we display everything. Look at this video we're doing now, you know? And we're also the culture that has been now privileged with the ability to show police brutality on the on a mask to show racism as we see like women what I'm trying to say, weaponizing police calls in Central Park on black people. We get to see these things and expose them to everyone. So we're going to, us being the generation, like I said, of exposure.
Like someone said that, right? Racism never not existed. It's just being
It's just being shown everywhere now. We see it on national TV and the news cycles are running it like hotcakes. So I think us being the generation of exposure, we're definitely, like I said, if anything, we're definitely going to get clarity on where people stand. And it would give us some more clarity on how to move forward.
But are we going
for sure
to
and break these old,
yes,
century-old habits?
Are we going to be the generation of change?
Century-old habits, because
real concrete change.
It's like it's crazy that like I wanted to mention this point when Bree's dad, my father-in-law, hears the exact same. Yo, you're going over the line. That I heard. 30 years indifference. That shows that there's a system in place and it needs to be fixed. So.
Yep. Just wanted to get that off our chests. Wanted to be a part of the voices being heard and just tired.
But yeah.
Tired of staying silent, and we are reflecting on our lives and how we can make a difference. And we hope everyone during this time, especially when you're supposed to be at home safe, are doing the same.
Word. Yes.
Yeah.
Until our next video, be safe. This is past primary, so you won't be able to vote for primaries, but make sure you study up for this election in November. Like I said, me and Bree, I've definitely have to say I've lost way much faith in politics, but what me and Bree's last message that we would want to say to you guys is that we encourage all of you to be, live healthy, safe lives. We encourage you to speak up. Be the representation that is necessary in the politics. If you have to run for office, I'm thinking about it myself. If I have to run for office to help fix this, be that person. If you need to step up in your company, your corporate company, and step up in some form of leadership, be that change, okay? Because there's a lot of people saying stuff and naysaying, but until we see our actual faces in those rooms to make those changes and represent, we got to keep fighting.
Even if it's not, again, doesn't have to be about politics. Like you said, if it's in your job, in your corporation, even if you don't want to go that far, if you just want to step up in your household, teach your kids, just speak up in some way to be a part of that change and teach this next generation that it does not have to be like this.
It does not. The system is broken.
As our child wakes up and starts to cry.
Yep, this is real. For our little white boy.
Yeah.
So, that is our message for you guys. Much love and stay safe. Peace.